iRacing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, here we go! Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome one, welcome all to a virtual recreation of Lanier National Speedway for round 7 of the Oceanic Dirt Sim Events Big Block Modified Madness series presented by Racecraft Simulations. We're starting to get to the final leg of this championship season now, which has been dominated by Joel Berkeley for the most part, and last round at Lernerville with a controversial finish between himself and his Slick SimSport teammates James Edens and Josh Harm. Certainly going to be some fire here in Georgia for the 7th round of the championship. Can't wait for things to go down. My name is Reese Gardner. Joining me in the commentary box is Ryan Jones as usual, but probably for the last time for a while, Ryan, because you're going to be taking leave for some real life commitments pretty soon. Let's hope that this round's a good one.
Yeah, hopefully they put on a good show for us. James Edens, he really gave it a good crack, didn't he? At the end of that race that we saw last Thursday, got into the side of Berkeley, lost the race due to a steward's decision. He said to us in post-race interviews that maybe he'd try the move again, but just a bit earlier in the race, so we could build out a margin if there was a post-race penalty. But, you know, I think we're just going to see the same sort of racing again. Looks like a smaller-sized field once again as the season comes to an end. Some of those drivers that had the pre-season hype start to die away from the back end. We're left with a core field of quality drivers and competition, and looking through the list of drivers, it is just, you know, the heart of the series. Real quality group, and I think on a track such as Lanier, we are in for a very interesting night, I suspect.
Yeah, I certainly think so as well. But before we take a look at Lanier National Speedway right here, highlight something interesting about this track. We mention it every time we go here. It's actually across the road from the legendary Road Atlanta circuit in Braselton, Georgia. And it's not an active circuit in real life anymore, but iRacing has laser scanned it many years ago and covered it with dirt with the introduction of dirt racing content. There it is, Road Atlanta and Lanier National Speedway. You can see, unfortunately, it's pretty much a car park now, but it's very much alive in the sim racing world. 0.38 miles, 600 meters long. It's a short circuit. It's got some reasonable amounts of banking, and it is very wide indeed. So there's plenty of room for some fantastic side-by-side moves. And I think we're definitely going to see a few slide jobs here tonight, Ryan.
Yeah, the slide jobs on the tracks like these, where there's not much banking. I mean, I just saw a shot of it from a sort of a side-on view, and there's a reasonable amount, but it's not steep. It's certainly not up to, you know, your Eldora levels. It's not your flat track levels. It's very much an in-between, isn't it? But I think it's one that might encourage a bit of a slide job from a bit far back. But I don't think it's necessarily going to work tonight. I think we may see a few incidents coming from that region.
Yeah.
I think it's enticing, but I don't think it's effective.
Yeah, I think, you know, slide jobs, especially in these cars, take quite a bit of effort to pull off, and the passing points that are on offer in this series, you'd certainly get a few more if you manage to get a slide job done successfully. Joel Berkeley has by far the most passing points out of anyone this season. Thanks to the inverts in the features, he has had to start further back than he would have liked in most races, so he's had to work his way up. But with a championship lead like that over his teammates James Edens and Josh Harm, I don't really see any way that Joel Berkeley can be overcome in these last 2 rounds of the season. He's going to have some really bad luck fall his way.
he's got one hand on the trophy as it is right now, and you're right, he's going to have to really try to screw up to lose it from here. James Eden's been his closest challenger, the American, mixing it up here with the Australians, and he really gave it to him in the previous round, but still fell short. Even after the checkered flag, he managed to lose the race. He'll run in close, but I think that fight for second's interesting between Edens and Harms. There's plenty of play out there over these last 2 rounds between Kelly and Stewart as well for P4, and throw Gosley into that mix as well. 4, 5, and 6. There's a good fight.
Yeah, certainly. And Aaron Kelly's mid-season form has put him up there in that 4th spot. Can't wait to see what he can do at this round in that number 7. Drivers like Jaden Russell and Brenton Hobson for Synergy Sim Racing looking to get themselves up there as well. Not much of a gap between them and the points, as you can see. And Lewis Hewitt currently all the way down in 9th spot. And he's not had the greatest of seasons here in the Big Block Modified Madness series. We've got to keep in mind as well that the drivers still have yet to apply their 1 drop round for the season. That's going to make quite a bit of difference in the standings, and of course you can't drop the final round, which is happening next week. So it's all going to be about trying to get the best result possible at this round, consolidate your championship standing, get maximum points. And Trent Gosley there setting the pace up there with Joel Berkeley, 13.7 seconds, a fast looking lap time around here. And as we look at this practice session going down, you see drivers preferring the bottom line. That's how it usually happens here at Lanier. You start out all the way down at the bottom. That's where the fastest line around the track is, but as the track gets worn in, you're going to see drivers moving up to the middle and to the top of the circuit. A few drivers already testing out that top line to try and get some extra momentum across the start-finish line on their qualifying laps. And qualifying, as always, 3 minutes long with only 2 laps available for drivers to set their grid positions for the heats. So they've got to make sure that they get it absolutely perfect. Lanier with walls on either side all the way through every corner. If you overshoot your entry just slightly, you'll get that 0x and it'll be completely invalidated.
What we saw last week was Joel Berkeley, right from practice, wasn't that quick. It transferred to qualifying, and all the way through to the race, he just struggled to be the fastest car out there. And that's why, right at the checkered flag, he was under the pressure that led to the contact. And just looking at the times in practice, he's 3rd. This week, he's not as far away as he was, which I think is threatening for the rest of the drivers. Who was that? Going up,
just me.
Going up and over, end over end. He's only a 0.5 of a second away, so he's a lot closer to the top of the timesheets this week. So I'd be a bit worried if I was Trent Gosley, Josh Harm, or James Edens.
Yes, indeed. James Edens is currently in the session, but hasn't set a time yet. Josh Harm there going for a bit of a spin at the top of the circuit. Berkeley there in the number 9, back out on track once again. These drivers working the track into a nice raceable state with some slick forming up at the top of the entry into the turns. These cars, of course, rear-wheel drive, only 1 gear, and you really got to send them sideways on the entry into these corners, because once you get on the throttle, the rear end might not come around as quickly as you want. And Harry Stewart right there in the number 11 demonstrating how you can get it wrong if you're using the top line. The wall actually juts out a little bit in a couple of these turns where the outside pit lane exits and re-enters the circuit. So once again, the driver's going to have to be careful up there. I think they'll be staying a little bit down from the top initially.
It's always a risk running against the wall, but so often it's the quickest line away. It's the quickest line around a racetrack in dirt racing. Often it's a godsend when it's not, because you can avoid that risk of running the right rear against concrete. You don't need to be told how easy it is for that to go wrong. So a small field, 18 drivers in the session,
We might only get 2 heats tonight.
Yeah, I was just reading that sign. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I was having that same thought as well. Potentially only 2 heats of 9 cars.
Yes, indeed. So, in that case, tonight is probably going to go by in a flash. Previously in the season, we've seen upwards of 4 and 5 heats as we had a full complement of cars. But of course, in the late season, as you said, Ryan, we had that core group of drivers all trying to fight for those top positions. And that's the reason why they're continuing to turn up here right at the end. And everyone's down in the pits for a little quick briefing before the session gets transferred into qualifying.
All tyres final and all times final in this practice session. Because in just a minute, there you go, checkered flag comes out, and we are going to head straight through to qualifying. 2 laps, as Reece said a little bit earlier on, for you to put down your marker and to set your place in the heats. If you're lucky, you'll put yourself in the top 2 in qualifying.
And a little playground.
I
Very nice.
almost fell right into that. I'll say it anyway. Jay pointed that out to us, our director. Lovely director. Brilliant bloke. Just kidding. Says there's a playground for you, Ryan. And you know what? I would love to have a go on that playground. Thank you, Jay.
Certainly gives you a good view of what's going on around the circuit. It's quite a good vantage point, actually.
A playground on a racetrack? Why not? It sounds like a load of fun.
Yeah. All it's missing is one of those little pieces of playground equipment that's just a seat with a steering wheel. You can pretend you're one of these guys. Nash Granger in the number 5 coming round to set his first lap time. And it's a 14.331 there for Granger as he tries running the cushion in the middle of the circuit. Max Lumsden going to P3 as Trent Gosley and Harry Stewart get the top times. Lewis Hewitt to P2. The times are gently coming down here. So they haven't quite gotten to the 13.7s they were running in practice. Let's see what James Edens can do here.
Coming onto his second lap, his first on a 14.286, quite a long way off. Let's see how his second one goes. Should be much quicker. He runs to the bottom through 3 and 4. Looks to get the power down early. Trying to keep it from washing up and into the concrete and invalidating his lap. 2.52. Won't be happy with that. He's a long way off the pace. A long way off Berkeley. 4/10. That's a lot in dirt racing.
Yeah, that's a country mile for James Edens, but we'll wait on the next couple of times to come in. Josh Harm is out on track, as is James Rice here in the number 5. P4 at the moment on a 14.064. Hoping that he can go a bit faster on this second lap. Here we go across the line, and that's a 14.2 slower on his second lap. So it looks like not many people able to get up to Joel Berkeley's level as Harmy goes to P3, 13.915. What about Jaden Russell then in the number 27? Good stuff there from Mr. Russell, putting the 27, 14.1 just outside the top 10 on his first lap, and he can't go faster on his second one. And that's a pattern I think we've seen quite a bit in this field. It seems that the first lap is the quickest.
Unless you're Cameron Dance, for a minute he did a 14.6 on his first lap, and I was wondering why he was so slow. But then his second lap was a 14.1, and he propped up into, I think we saw P10. So the field spread by half a second in qualifying, our 18 drivers. Qualifying wraps up, and we'll see whether we get split into 2 or 3 heats as time runs out. And let's find out. 1.
Indeed. Looks like
2.
2 heats.
There you go.
Cool. So, grid for Heat 1 up on screen. It's Berkeley and Harm on the front row, with James Rice and Harry Stewart taking up the 3rd and 4th spots. Cameron Dance starts in the top 5 alongside Jaden Russell there, with Paul Bryan, James Edens and Josh Barry finishing there at the rear of the field in qualifying. So, Eden starting from 8th. He'll want to grab some passing points here in the heats, get up to the back of his teammates, Harm and Berkeley. Remember, the top 4 get a ticket straight through into the feature. They don't have to do the consolations. And because of the reduced field tonight, I think that every single driver in the server is indeed going to make it into the feature. No one's in danger of going home. It's just a case of determining your starting position.
Yeah, we're likely to still see that B main, if you will. We saw that last week, where we had a B main and an A main, even though everyone made it to the A main in the end. It just sort of sets the grid in 2 halves, if you will. A bit like a 2-part qualifying format.
Yes, indeed. Well, the start is going to be interesting here. Because the track is so wide, you've got an awful lot of room to coordinate the start. I'm wondering what Berkeley is going to do. Is he going... I'd expect him to stay high coming up to the green flag and do exactly what we've seen drivers do at Lernerville, all the way to the top and then make a hard turn left when the green flag comes out to try and straight line your exit and get the best run that you can off the start-finish line. Well, they've got 2 laps behind the pace truck to figure that one out.
Interesting. They're all gridded up a bit sideways. They're all angled up the racetrack. All our big blocks right now, which I suppose helps a little bit with the left-hand down issue you have when you go to apply the power that on some of the narrower tracks almost hooks you straight into the wall or the car to the left of you. If you're on the outside. So we're rolling on our pace laps for our first of just 2 heats, 8 laps. First 4 going straight through to the feature. Berkeley, Harm, Rice, and Stewart in those lucky 4 spots. 5 drivers want to get in there, but not too much of a rush, really. If you don't get in there with the 19 drivers in the field today. 18, sorry.
Yes, indeed. I'm certainly thinking that there's going to be a bit more of a relaxed atmosphere to the racing here tonight. I mean, particularly in the first few rounds of the championship, we saw quite a few incidents as drivers, desperately trying to make their way into the feature and then move up in a packed feature grid. It's only 1 formation lap here as Berkeley takes the green flag and leads the way into turn 1. Harm to the inside, protecting from James Rice, who gets a little crossed up on the exit. That allows Harry Stewart through on the outside, coming into turns 3 and 4. Meanwhile, Cameron Dance a little compromised on exit as well, stuck down there on the bottom. He'll want to move up to the middle to try and stymie the run of Jaden Russell, but there goes Harry Stewart side by side with James Rice, trying to challenge for that 3rd spot.
Dance is a good run here on the inside of Stewart, almost tags Rice. Big sideways movement in the background as well, moving backwards. For one of our contenders, Stewart checked up big time in the middle of 3 and 4 there. Gave him a really good run. Paul Bryan might have actually given him a little bit of a push start through the corner. Here we go. Dance surges ahead of Stewart and takes the final transfer spot away from him. Paul Bryan fancies the spot as well. P5. Stewart lacking a bit of pace. Dance fancies a stab at 3rd as well.
Yeah, starting to get into a good rhythm is Cameron Dance, and the car we saw spinning in the background just before was Jaden Russell. He's down in the pits now and has retired from this heat. James Edens is off the pace as well. He's just not able to catch up to this pack that we're seeing right now with Rice, Dance, Stewart and Bryan all battling together. Bryan continuing to pressure Stewart there on the inside. Dance moves up a bit higher and they hint at going 3 wide down the start-finish straight as the final lap begins. Joel Berkeley out in the lead, has absolutely nothing to worry about here. Straight to the inside in the final couple of turns. He will take this heat victory. Harm in 2nd. For 3rd, James Rice and Cameron Dance just beating Harry Stewart and Paul Ryan to that transfer spot.
Good genuine pace from Cameron Dance for a change in this series. Gets himself straight through to the feature. Time then for heat number 2 and the final heat for tonight. How about this for a front row? Trent Gosley and Lewis Hewitt. Mitchell Clark and Bob King on row 2. Aaron Kelly and Darcy Wilson on row 3 ahead of Max Lumsden, Daniel Boyd, and Nash Granger running out your 9 cars, Reese.
Yes, indeed. And Darcy Wilson starting there from P6 certainly showed some great turns of pace at Lernerville last round. Aaron Kelly as well starting from P5. I'd expect them to try and move forward as best they can, but Mitchell Clark has shown himself to be quite the driver in this round, starting third there behind Gosley and Hewitt. But I think my main concern here is Lewis Hewitt and his recent form. Unfortunately, he's had quite a few rounds this season not go his way, and we discussed that at the start where we saw him in 9th place in the championship standings. It's going to be a tough ask for Hewitt to try and get some points back here today. His main priority is just going to be to stay in touch there with Gosley and try not to fall back too far. He's got to be careful of contact.
We'll see how we go. Reckon we saw 1 pace lap on the first heat. We're going to see the same here. Set for a start. Gosley gets us away. That's an excellent start. Gosley is going to cover the inside for turn 1.
Excellent start there for Gosley, but Hewitt's right on the attack. Mitchell Clark is too. Up the inside of Bob King to take 3rd place, but 3 wide, almost coming out. Bob King with the advantage on the throttle application. Have a look at Aaron Kelly working the top line. He's lost a bit of time there as just behind him Max Lumsden and Darcy Wilson come together ever so briefly. Looks like King there has the measure of Mitchell Clark on corner exit. Kelly to the top again, but it doesn't seem that it's working for him there on the entry. He's just lost the position to Lumsden.
And Hewitt is looking very good here. In fact, I'd say he's the quicker of the top 2 right now. He's just switching up his lanes, running something different to Trent Gosley, trying to get a drive, get a run, find a way to get alongside your heat leader at the moment. There's no real challenge for 4th place, so all eyes are on this battle for the lead. I think there's a move coming for Lewis Hewitt any minute now. Here we go, pulling to the inside. Can he get the momentum? Oh, he's just clipped the inside wall. It picked up the left front, and it allows Bob King to his outside. Now he's going to be in trouble of losing a spot. They do touch on the exit of the corner, but there's enough room for King to get between Hewitt and the wall. He's going to get the exit momentum as well and just about clear him into the corner. And now here comes Mitchell Clark as well.
Indeed, Clark, though, a bit compromised on the inside there as Hewitt starts working the cushion. He's going to have to try and keep himself ahead here as the final lap begins. Trent Gosley up in the lead. Doesn't look like much of a chance here for Bob King to try and take the victory, but he's going to try the slide job at the final hurdle. Doesn't work out for him, loses momentum. So it's Gosley, King, Hewitt and Clark, your top 4. Down there in 5th, Max Lumsden. Unfortunately, Darcy Wilson losing a spot there, but Daniel Boyd making up 2 spots along the way, which is good to see. Well now, the drivers we saw finishing outside the top 4 in both heats are going to take part here in the 10-car B main tonight. All of them going to be transferring through to the feature. So Harry Stewart and Max Lumsden are going to lead them up here with Paul Bryan and Daniel Boyd on the 2nd row. James Edens in the B main here. He's got a lot of work to do here tonight alongside Darcy Wilson. Josh Barry and Nash Granger on the 4th row, and it's Jaden Russell and Aaron Kelly who round out the field here.
I think Harry Stewart, James Edens, and Aaron Kelly are 3 odd people to see in this B main. James Edens obviously could have won the race in the feature last time we went racing last week. Harry Stewart is generally up amongst the top 10, and Aaron Kelly was very competitive last week as well. And they've struggled tonight. Aaron Kelly obviously had this spin. Edens had no pace, and Stewart just couldn't quite get there in his heat. And luckily for them, they all get through to the feature. This is just setting their half of the grid. They've got 12 laps to set the last 10 spots in the feature grid.
have indeed. So plenty of time there. 4 extra laps from the heats. And, you know, I think we were mistaken. There is indeed 2 formation laps here tonight, but they go by so quickly. It's such a short track that we barely even notice. There they go. Passing by Barney, the flag man, once again. It's just one of those things about short track dirt racing. You tend to get into a flow of talking or focus on a point, and suddenly a few laps have gone by in an instant, and you're wondering where they went. So the pace truck is going to pull in here. The start of the B main now under the control of Harry Stewart. They are away. Max Lumsden, unfortunately, checks up the top line behind. Oh, James Edens getting into the wall there on pit exit as there's contact down below between Darcy Wilson and Josh Barry. Barry has clipped the wall and gone for a spin as well. Has to chuck it in reverse and get it back going again. James Edens out of the B main. He's going to be starting all the way at the back as it's on for third and fourth. Daniel Boyd and the number 55 of Max Lumsden side by side here. And Boyd then with the advantage on the inside. You see that the slick line is really starting to form there down at the bottom. It's starting to turn into the place where you don't want to be. But it seems that it's definitely helping them get turned in for the corners. As side by side again now, Darcy Wilson and Nash Granger, Jaden Russell and Aaron Kelly getting involved in this one right at the back.
Wilson's just blazing the trail straight through the slick on the entries. Running the car right up the corner, through the middle on the exit. It's working well for him, actually. Maybe not quite as good on exits. Oh, behind him! Up and around and upside down. And
Jaden Russell. He has had an absolute horror night here, and he escapes back to the pits. He is out as well. So we only have 8 cars left now in this here B main, with Josh Barry trailing far behind everyone at the moment. Stewart doesn't look like he's under much of a threat here for the lead. He's just keeping it nice and controlled here up at the front. But Paul Bryan trying to run the high line here to get some extra momentum. He's got Daniel Boyd behind him, and it doesn't look like they're going to change position anytime soon. The laps continue ticking away, and I think the main battle is going to be for 5th and 6th between Kelly and Wilson, because they're pretty close together right now.
yeah, Kelly running the bottom, Wilson following him, and then actually both of them tracking up the track. Kelly whacking the fence there. That stopped him from getting low. Wilson went low, and they come together on the exit. Big slide from Kelly. He catches it. No, he doesn't.
Getting into the wall as well. Massively compromised there as it's on for the lead as they come around to start the final 2 laps of the race. Paul Bryan's right on the back now of Harry Stewart. He's going to try and push him up the racetrack a bit. Stewart sees him coming and gets into the cushion. Bryan just takes the lead ever so briefly, trying to use that little bit of fresh clay on entry down the bottom. Trying to get the advantage on the number 11, but yeah, no turn at all. These modifieds, got to be very careful getting yourself into these corners. But final lap, it looks like Stewart has got this sorted. Almost a change for position between Bryan and Boyd, but that is your podium. Stewart, Bryan and Boyd. And far behind, Darcy Wilson taking 4th place at the final hurdle. Max Lumsden got massively compromised.
Oh, no, he hasn't! Wilson's in the fence, and he's actually barrel rolled it.
Oh, no. Well, I think that was just after the finish. Darcy Wilson maintains that 4th place finish there, with Granger completing at the top 5. It's Lumsden, Barry, Kelly, Russell and Edens, how they work out. And our friend the Spinny Wheel has decided to tell us that it's going to be a top 8 invert for the feature. So, half the field there going to be inverted for this one. And checking that feature grid, looks like your pole man is going to be Mitchell Clark in the 00. Dance is going to start alongside him with Hewitt and Rice on the 2nd row, and then it'll be King, Harm, Gosley and Berkeley, the rest of your top 8. And considering Joel Berkeley's form in this series, that's going to be more passing points for him in this round.
Okay, to be fair, the way they sailed off into turn 1 looked like they were still racing, okay? And they'll also want to barrel roll the car.
Oh dear.
These races are too short, man, I'm telling you. We need more laps. We're going to get plenty more laps in this feature.
Oh, we certainly are. It's going to be 50 laps, green flag in the feature, 80 laps total. So if we end up getting to the limit of that 80 laps set in the server, it's going to become a green-white checkered situation, and we'll be coming to an end there. But considering the reduced field size, I would expect that there won't be too many incidents in the field, and we'll be able to cover those 50 laps quite easily.
You can't say that, Reese.
I know I can't, but I do anyway.
Never learn.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see you in 3 hours when we finish this race.
Yes, indeed. Wondering if it's going to be a long night now tonight, but the track not being reset, obviously, and you see the slick line now all the way around the circuit, and the number 5 of Darcy Wilson getting that cushion running very nicely. Once again, though, you see drivers like Max Lumsden there pushing a little bit too hard into these corners. Lumsden and Dance showing the kind of battling we might be able to see. If you're down on the inside on corner exit, you're actually at a massive disadvantage because you just can't put the traction down there on the slick line.
Yeah, no, not unless you get it turned. And we saw Paul Bryan trying to get it turned, and the car just sailed straight up the racetrack for him. And because of that slick line, that's why there's nothing for the front tyres to grip onto. And that's why we're seeing the car sail straight up the road. And you've got to really, really do a good job of slowing it up in order for the weight to transfer. That's when you'll see the turn in. If you can do that, then you can get that drive up. But it's so hard. And if you're not maximizing everything, you're not going to find that drive off. And that's why the top works so much better, so often. But it's not impossible.
Certainly not. The sun is a bit lower in the sky now. It's just past 8 p.m. in sim time, so these drivers are going to have the sun in their eyes at a couple of points for at least the first few laps of this feature. But this is how they're going to line up on the grid. Just take that top 8 and completely invert it. Berkeley's going to be starting down there in 8th place, with Mitchell Clark taking the pole position as we go around on our formation laps. And, well, Clark and Dance front row with the control that they have. I think Cameron Dance could certainly stand to get a good result here tonight. He has had some terrible luck and has been off the pace somewhat this season, but at least in the heat, he showed that he can mix it at the top. Yeah,
and we've seen Dance in many other series be one of the benchmark operators. I hate that I've just used that reference. And he's often so competitive and fast, and he's just struggled in this series, which is so odd considering he's so good on dirt as well normally. So seeing him be competitive in that heat race is something that intrigues me heading into this feature race. First time he's gotten lucky in this series as well, getting to start from P2 for this feature. We'll see how he goes from the front row. They're going to go green next time, but we're going to get a start pretty quickly here, Reese.
We are indeed, and the driver on pole has the ability to pick what lane they want to start in. Mitchell Clark has chosen the outside lane for this start, and definitely understand why. Up there on the fresher clay, more towards the top of the circuit. Let's hope that he gets a good start here versus Cameron Dance. But here we go then, feature time at Lanier National Speedway, round 7 of the Oceanic Dirt Sim event. Leads them into turn 1. Cameron Dance moving up to the middle of the circuit. James Rice and Lewis Hewitt side by side behind them for 3rd and 4th. Bob King pushing very hard into the turn, forces the number 9 of Joel Berkeley up into the cushion. Berkeley is wasting no time here, trying to move forward. A bit of contact between Berkeley and King, and that puts Berkeley back another position versus Trent Gosley. but it's a huge pack here at the front. Cameron Dance starting to catch up to Mitchell Clark here and really pressure him for this race lead. Berkeley then to the inside as he tries to set a charge back up, almost 3 wide there on the back straight, and the slide job from Lewis Hewitt just about, using the fresh clay down. Up on James Rice Yetters, there we go. Cameron Dance trying the slider, but Mitchell Clark outside, fresher clay, better traction.
He tried it, he's tried it again, and Hewitt's looking as well. He's got to be careful. He's not getting a drive off the corners, Dance. He's not quite far enough up. And he's wary of all those fast guys behind. They're 3 abreast behind him. Hewitt's in the middle with Berkeley low, Rice up high, and Harm looking to push him through a minute ago as well. Rice just getting edged out by Hewitt there on the outside. So now Hewitt picking a spot in lane behind Dance, riding against the fence. And oh no, Rice gets turned around by Bob King and collected by Aaron Kelly down low. And upside down they go.
Big shame there. It looks like Paul Bryan's involved in that too, and he's stuck in the wall. He's managed to get himself unstuck, but James Rice there at an angle now on the wall. He's going to have to work hard to get that thing going again. We're going to get a VRS replay of that incident as it looks like James Rice is back to the pits now and has retired from that one. We're going to see how this happened from Paul Bryan's perspective, and you'll see that he gets turned around, does James Rice, just up ahead. King went very hard into the circuit at the top, and James Rice there, once it was around, there was not much he could do to recover it, and I think very unlucky there for Paul Bryan and Daniel Boyd. They were doing everything right. They just couldn't expect that someone would come down the circuit like that after an incident. Oh, yeah.
I don't think any of those drivers could do in that scenario. Bob King coming with too much speed.
Well, we race once more. The green flag is out. Dance kind of missed the cue there on the start, which allowed Joel Berkeley up the inside of him, and Berkeley takes second. Dance just leaving Hewitt enough room around the outside as they're 3 wide through the final turn. Dance stuck in the middle, very hot pursuit. Trent Gosley working the top as well and starting to advance forward. Dance trying to go for the late apex there, try and keep Josh Harm behind him, but Berkeley then to the lead now. He seems to have the car set up beautifully to work out that slick line, and Mitchell Clark had absolutely no response. Maybe there'll be a response here. He goes for the over-under and the slide job on the run into turns 3 and 4. Joel Berkeley there up the top, carrying the momentum. Once again, the number 9 showing why he's the star driver of this series.
Clark just got caught in the middle there. He didn't really go for the slide job. He didn't really go for the low line either. He just did neither. And as a result, Berkeley was just able to confidently drive off the corner and clear him. And now Clark is going to get absolutely swamped here. Hewitt wants to get by. They make contact. Clark's going to lose 3 spots, make that 6 spots. He's back to 7th. They've all gone by him. Dance, Harm, Gosley, Stewart, Hewitt, and Edens.
How good is this battle for second as Josh Harm gets put
in the
into
fence.
Trent Gosley?
Gosley,
Oh.
upside down, in the fence. All 4 tires. Nope. Come on. Come on. Come on.
Oh, he
Come
missed.
on. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey.
There we go. Trent Gosley can keep going. Oh, goodness me. Oh,
No.
Oh, no, he's not. Oh, Trent Gosley out of this round now as we take a look at the VRS replay. This happened in turns 1 and 2. Gosley entered the corner and got a bit compromised when Josh Harm went up the circuit. He went wide. Gosley hit the wall. Mitchell Clark had nowhere to go and just tipped him over. Clark was already a little compromised there from the contact just before with Lewis Hewitt. You'll see the incident go on down here. Gosley in behind Dance, and up comes Josh Harm, makes contact with the front left for Trent Gosley, and then into the wall with Clark going into the back of him, and that's going to be some pretty heavy damage there for the number 4. I think the suspension might have been whacked out of alignment with the rolling, and that is why Trent Gosley is elected to retire from this one. We're about to get another start, though. Joel Berkeley has chosen the outside lane for this restart, and he absolutely nails it on the run to the line. James Edens has managed to work his way up in the midst of all of this, and almost challenging for second here with his teammates. So there we go. Slick Simsport 1-2 again, and it could be 1-2-3 as Hewitt clips the inside wall, and Paul Bryan gets into it. Hewitt has been forced to go into the pits.
That's really unlucky. That's really unlucky.
Yeah.
Oh, they were 5 wide on the back of the group for a minute there. Gotten away with it. Surprised they got away with 4 wide for as long as they did. So a bad restart for Cameron Dance. Josh Hahn tries the big slider. They're losing time. Oh no.
Yellow flag out
4,
once again.
5, 6, 7 cars get caught up in that one. 8 cars.
Goodness me. Well, Josh Harm there trying the slide job on Cameron Dance as we get a replay of what happened here to Lewis Hewitt. Just clips the inside wall, and then Paul Bryan gets into him. Hewitt turned around and into the pit lane. And, oh, hello, Harry Stewart going for a bit of a spin there as well. This is going to be the replay of Josh Harm. He did the slider on Cam Dance, but pushed a bit too far up the circuit on exit. He got into the wall and then was turned around. Harry Stewart and Aaron Kelly had absolutely nowhere to go. And Stewart with some pretty heavy damage now. He's missing his front panels. So that's going to be a challenge for him coming into these final laps of the feature. We're currently on lap 14 right now, staying on lap 14 because we're not counting laps under caution.
Interesting call from race control about throwing the yellow and them still racing half a lap later. Not quite sure why the yellow could have been thrown any earlier. Interesting, just an interesting comment to note as we go back green and even restart from the teammates. Here we go. Eden's on the inside of Berkeley, trying to take it back away. Berkeley's going to cross him back over. Drag race to the next corner. Inside for Berkeley, outside for Edens. They came together last time they raced. Caution's back out.
Yeah, Aaron Kelly up and over at the top of the circuit. Looks like Max Lumsden as well. Oh, goodness, we had such a good green flag run there at the very start of the race, but it looks like cautions are definitely breeding cautions here. What will happen here on the virtual racing school replay? It looks like Jaden Russell got into the back of Max Lumsden, which started that whole mess. And unfortunately, Nash Granger involved in this one as well. There's Lumsden getting turned around, and wow. There you go. Once a car turns and goes 90 degrees to the racing line, it does take up quite a bit of space. So that's going to be Max Lumsden well and truly out of this one.
Is that your biggest issue with a car turning 90 degrees on a racetrack? Race is the space it takes up and not, the angle to the racetrack?
Well, I mean, it's a bit of both, isn't it? As the pace truck is going to come in at the end of this lap. Yes, we've gone for the single file restart this time because of back-to-back cautions. There'll also be single file restarts if there's a caution in the final 10 laps. So Joel Berkeley doesn't have to worry about anything from behind here. He can control the start and get off to the optimum start to this next lap of the race as the number 5 of Darcy Wilson working the very bottom here to try and get past Mitchell Clark. Cameron Dance, though, sitting there in 3rd place. Everyone was getting queued up behind him before the cautions came out. So I think Cameron Dance is going to be the yardstick here that everyone will want to beat. You see a big dichotomy of lines there in the mid-pack.
You do. I really hope Berkeley doesn't pull away here, otherwise we've been robbed of a fantastic fight between himself and Edens. Although Edens is chucking it into these corners, trying to stick with him. Dance is looking a little bit vulnerable as well. Wilson driving it around Daniel Boyd, trying to keep it ahead of him. Bob King looking on, trying to recover.
Oh. There goes James Edens, big old slide job, but Joel Berkeley hooks it up there on the exit and gets back down the inside of him into turns 3 and 4.
Back and forth.
Indeed. This is similar to what happened between them at Lernerville. I wonder if it's going to end in a bust-up like it did at the last round, but it looks like they're just having fun out there, the two teammates, as Cameron Dance keeps everyone else behind him. Goodness me. Oh no! That's another caution there, and that is Josh Barry up and over on his roof. That's him out.
Slick Sim Sports, isn't he, as well?
Yes, I believe so.
They're in fortunes for them tonight.
Extremely so. So what happened to him? He had Harry Stewart on his inside and just got he just got tapped up into the wall there as Stewart went very hard into the corner.
Nothing's... Oh.
And
That's...
for that, Harry Stewart's been given an end-of-line penalty.
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know.
It seemed pretty borderline, didn't it?
Not really. I mean, you saw how close to his door Josh Barry entered, right? He entered on his door. That wasn't really anywhere for Stewart to go.
Yeah, they were pushing each other very hard there. I don't know if I agree.
That's a racing incident, my friend.
Yeah, I'd probably call it a racing incident as well. But either way, Harry Stewart has to heed the word of race control and start all the way at the back.
Yep.
It's an opportunity for a couple more passing points at the very least. That's the silver lining to that very dark cloud. As Joel Berkeley takes the restart, Edens is right on him and Dance hooked it up very nicely too. He's going to the very bottom here to try and have a go at second place, but that Slick Sim Sport duo of Berkeley and Edens, they are certainly loving at the top of the circuit right now. Edens definitely, Berkeley going down into the slick line. So briefly. Stewart's already trying to make up places. He's just managed to get past Nash Granger. His next target is going to be Jaden Russell in the number 27. As there's another change for position, Darcy Wilson round the outside of Daniel Boyd almost secures the position, but a bit too hard into the corner, and that allows Mitchell Clark to jet on ahead again. But Cameron Dance is really putting some pressure on James Edens coming into these corners.
Yeah, this is good. This is... mate, I can't use the same adjective to describe it. Berkeley and Edens, with Dance watching and waiting for a mistake from one of them. He's just hanging with them. And using some scary lines to hang with them. Big sliders, really, on thin air that are getting very close to the left rear of James Edens' car. Berkeley's pulled a gap on him, I've just noticed as well, which is disheartening for fans of close battles. Edens is shadowing his line. Dance having to be wary of Clark. Wilson trying to track them both down. Boyd, King, Palm looking underneath King. Where to watch in this one. We're on lap 28 of 50. Green flag laps, 44 of 80 of total laps, by the way, keeping track of that number. That includes caution laps. What a run for King, further back in the pack. They're pretty much 3 wide back there.
Yeah, it's looking very close. Very close in the mid-pack as the Berkeley and Edens are back to their usual shenanigans of swapping positions every single corner. Noticing they're doing something that not many other people are doing, Berkeley and Edens. They're going so hard into these turns that their rear end is actually making contact with the wall and helping them to make their way around the circuit, as we briefly saw Bob King there fighting hard with Josh Harm and Daniel Boyd. Berkeley, though, covering off Edens to the inside. Once again, they're shadowing each other's lines. Berkeley using the groove up at the top to get a great run out of these corners. Darcy Wilson has managed to eke out a gap over Daniel Boyd, and we'll see if that gap stays as it is, because side by side just behind them, Bob King and Josh Harm. Harmy's stuck on the inside there on the slick line, and Bob King just vaulting ahead coming into the corners as a whole. The number 7 of Aaron Kelly just about getting into the wall there as the fun continues for Berkeley and Edens.
Just takes one attempt to work with Berkeley unable to get back underneath him.
Yeah, the question is, I mean, once this track is so short that you make a mistake in one corner and it could affect your next few laps. So it's very difficult to get back into a rhythm when there's a car right with you, trading places with you every corner. They're actually gapping the rest of the field, though, so I don't think they mind too much. Dance still holding on to third, but Mitchell Clark is starting to catch up to him as that battling in the mid-pack is looking very intense. Harm and King just can't leave each other alone.
That was a mistake from Berkeley, and Edens almost couldn't clear himself to get back underneath Berkeley. And I think it affected Edens negatively, Berkeley's mistake. Because Edens is relying on Berkeley clearing him to be able to get back underneath him.
Well, no dice for now. They're continuing to run side by side, those two teammates, as Clark is now right on the back of Cameron Dance and feel like he might be sizing up a move pretty soon. And we've got 10 laps to go now. The lap counter, you see at the top left, is out by 2 laps. So we'll keep you updated on when the white flag lap is.
So Edens has stopped pulling the slide jobs. Berkeley's gone back to the protective line. Never mind.
Yeah, here we go again. Edens and Berkeley swapping as they do. And Edens just avoiding getting into the wall there on pit exit. Berkeley hooks up the throttle. See the momentum that he carries just from getting on the throttle at the right time. You have to have a lot of confidence in your car in order to be able to pull something like that off, and Berkeley protecting the inside again from his teammate, but Edens was carrying a little bit more momentum there. Let's see if he throws the slider. Oh, a bit too far up the circuit for the pass to be made. He had to back out of that one.
5 laps to go.
5 to go indeed. So who's it going to be?
Edens at the fence there, hurt his momentum a little bit. Berkeley's in the best spot right now. 4 laps left. Edens has got to find a way to make the move. And right now, he's not got the track position, and he's not in a spot to pull a pass either.
Yeah, certainly not. This is going to be quite the difficult run here for James Edens if he wants to finally get one up on Joel Berkeley, who has dominated this season so far. Seems that the big block modified gods smiling on the number 9 as these two have left the rest of the field behind.
2 laps. 1.5 laps now down the back straight. Berkeley's running the top, isn't he? Coming out of these corners. I feel like the top's where Edens needed to go to try and get the run. White flag is out. Berkeley's got the gap. Edens has just been following him. I don't think he needed to do something different.
Oh, he's going to try one here at the final couple of corners, but it doesn't look like it's going to work. Slide job attempt at the final corner, but there we go. Joel Berkeley across the line to take yet another feature win here this season and extend his championship lead. Edens in seconds, and Cameron Dance
behind. Bob King gets wrecked at the line.
Oh, no. That's a shame there for Bob. Has to be shuffled back down to P11, but Cameron Dance finishing on the podium there. I think that's one of the best drives I've seen all night. Dance, you know, finally getting a good feature run together, and as they all have some fun here on the start-finish stretch. It's going to be good times at Slick Sim Sport. But Dance was able to hold off the charge from just about everybody in those final few laps. He wasn't able to keep up with Berkeley and Edens, but still, managing to finish on the podium, I think finally it's starting to come together for the Kiwi. Yeah.
It was a really good run from Dance. Unfortunately, just not quite able to go with Berkeley and Edens on the long runs. He could go with them on the short runs, but as soon as they got a decent stint in, he just couldn't quite keep up, but certainly the rest of the field he was able to defend quite well and held his own. I think he'll be quite happy with how he performed tonight.
Yeah, I certainly think so too. We'll wait for a couple of minutes here for the drivers to come in for their interviews, but I think while we're waiting for that, we'll go on a very quick break here on SimSpeed TV. It was a fantastic run that these drivers had here at the 7th round of the Oceanic Dirt Sim Events Big Block Modified Series. And actually, I think we won't go to a break because there they are, all in the awaiting interviews box. And the first driver we're going to bring in, of course, Joel Berkeley. You won again, Joel.
Yeah, I guess so.
You guess so. It was another great battle between you and James Edens that didn't quite get as heated as it did last round at Lernerville, but it seemed like you guys were just having a bit of fun out there at the front, swapping positions like you were.
Yeah, no, we were having a bit of fun there. It was actually good of James to actually get serious instead of clicking heads like he was in his heat race and bang like an idiot. But yeah, he decided to screw his head on. I guess he come through the pack pretty quick and we put on a good show for everyone.
Indeed you did, but I mean, Lanier seems to have really smiled on you, and this whole season really has smiled on you. Now that the final round obviously can't be dropped for points, it seems like you're in the box seat now to take the title.
Yeah, I'd say everything but we've sealed it up. If I had knew we were going to have this sort of form at USA, I should have moved James last corner at USA for the win, but it's what it is. And yeah, regardless of the result next week, it's a pretty good season we've had, and I don't think anyone's had any sort of season like this in ODSE history.
Yeah, certainly. Dirt Track at Charlotte is the final round, and it's going to be a big old 60-lap A main. It's I guess on paper kind of a similar circuit to Lanier in that it's wide and you can really push, but the Dirt Track at Charlotte, much more high speed. What do you think the racing's going to be like there?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot more racing. I think you'll see a lot more on the fence sort of racing and a lot of huge sliders and that sort of stuff, but hopefully get more of a field to show up next week. Obviously a lot of people have dropped off on the series, which is a bit unfortunate. There's I think almost 20-30 cars that just dropped out throughout the season, I guess, but obviously we'll have real life commitments, but hopefully see at least 20-30 or 30 cars to season finale next week.
Indeed, we'll certainly be hoping for the same. Well, before we let you go, Joe Berkeley, number 9, is there anyone that you'd like to thank from your garage at Slick SimSport?
Yeah, look, massive thanks to the guys at Slick SimSport. We've had a pretty good car all season and showed the results with every week. I think we almost had 2 cars on at least on the podium, and tonight we had another 3 on the podium again. And yeah, just everyone there, Swindell Speedbub, and all the other people that make it happen. And yeah, shout out to Harmy for being his birthday tonight or today as well.
Happy birthday, Josh Harm. That is Joel Berkeley there, winner of the feature here tonight at Lanier National Speedway. Next up, Mr. James Edens, the number 52. Well, James, a P2 finish here tonight, which is really good. You got some great passing points out of that one, but it seems that you had a bit of trouble getting up to speed. And from what I'm reading, you were trying to play Valorant at the same time?
Yeah, I kind of forgot the race was tonight, and so we were trying to multitask there early on in the night. I was, racing on my second monitor. Normally I'm a VR guy, so we were definitely off the pace and struggled a little bit and qualified in the heat race for sure.
Well, nonetheless, managed to get yourself on the feature grid here tonight, and that battle with Joel Berkeley seemed like you had a lot of trouble trying to consolidate the move against your teammate, because at a track like this, especially when it slicks up, it's very hard to get into a rhythm and try and maintain a position over another car.
Yeah, for sure. It seemed we had a couple bad timed cautions early when I think I could have, made the move when the track was, had a little bit more moisture in it. That's what it seemed to be. We were a little better then than he was, but he was better at the end. So, but yeah, this place it's a lot of momentum. I kept sliding him, time after time, trying to, just hope he would make a mistake, on a crossover, or just get in the wall a little bit so we could get, getting control of the race would have been huge. But, it is what it is, and we'll take it.
So now your mind will obviously move to the final round of the season at Charlotte. Are you hoping to get a win on the board before the season's out?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. We're getting tired of running second to that 9 car. So, hopefully we can overtake them and get the top step of the podium next week.
Indeed. Before we let you go, James, anyone that you'd like to thank or give a shout out to?
Yeah, just gotta thank the Speed Lab guys, Slick Sim Sport, Bell Helmets, K1 Race Gear, Racing Electronic, HMS Motorsports, Dominator Designs, and everyone that supports us.
James Edens, the American number 52, P2 here tonight. Fantastic result for him. Final driver interview of the night. It is a Slick Sim Sport 1, 2, 3 technically here, because Cameron Dance finishing on the podium. Cam, finally here in the Big Block Modified Series. Your late season form seems to be where it's at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to really be coming together in these recent few races. Obviously, there's been a few times where I've made my own mistakes, but the pace has been really, really good. So, and it's pretty much just shout out to the boys at Six Sim Sport. We put a really, really good car together every single week. So, yeah, I can't complain with the result that we have, and get to come away with 1, 2, 3 with the boys is really, really good.
Certainly is, and I want to draw a bit of attention to just how much the track was slicking up in the feature. You guys were obviously focusing on getting the car to work really well on those slick lines, because it seemed like you were able to have the measure of the field.
We haven't really changed much as far as what we did to the car over the course of the night. So all we did was really just throw along a slightly taller gearing in it, and away we went, sort of thing, and it seemed to work very, very well. I mean, I struggled a little bit in some regards with trying to get the maximum out of the car, but it was pretty good either way, and we really did manage to make it work through the slick quite well with that extra gearing. So yeah, it just managed to come off the corner really, really well, and even when we were side by side in that, it just did what it needed to do.
It certainly did, and you faced off quite a bit of pressure from the field behind. You were pretty much the cork in the bottle for a big part of the middle stage of that feature. It's obviously quite hard to pass here at a circuit like Lanier when the circuit gets worn in.
Yeah, it was actually very, very difficult to end up passing at this sort of track, and it's usually quite hard to pass in general in these cars because of the fact that everybody's so equal, and the fact that it usually just comes down to how well you can get the power down. I mean, we're not even full throttle majority of the time, so if you can get as much power as you possibly can down at the end of the day, that's going to be what's going to get you really, really good results, and what's going to give you a lot of pace compared to everybody else. So yeah, it's just one of those things about this car and this track as well, is that passing's really, really difficult. Unless you can set it up well in advance, it's going to be a little bit of a difficult one, but it is what it is, and it's just one of those things that you have to deal with and come to grips with.
Indeed, but you came to grips with what was going on out there at Lanier, which sets you up for a good final round at Charlotte next week.
Yeah, it does. I mean, the points we got from the round tonight was pretty good. Obviously, not quite as good as the likes of James and that, who managed to come through the field and get a lot of passing points. But regardless, we're sitting quite nicely inside that top 10 now. I think with the amount of points that were scored, and with the fact that drop rounds are going to be coming into it, it's going to be interesting to see what happens come in the final round.
Indeed, we'll be watching with great interest. Before we let you go, Cam, anyone that you'd like to thank from your particular place on the Slick Sim Sport team?
Obviously, shout out to the boys for all the hard work and awesome sets they put out every single week and week out, and obviously the results as well. And then all our partners and everybody on the car, down at Graphics, Swindell Speed Lab, all those sort of guys. And yeah, you guys for putting on an awesome broadcast, and Brady for putting on an awesome series.
That's Cameron Dance there, third place in the Slick Sim Sport 1, 2, 3 here tonight at Lanier. Well then, that brings to an end proceedings for tonight, Ryan. We go to Charlotte next week, the dirt track at Charlotte. Unfortunately, you're not going to be there, but I am really looking forward to that final round. It's a big, fast track with some fantastic opportunities for big side-by-side racing.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'll tune in. Can't wait to see what it's like, and hopefully, Reese, you don't Koeko come to let Ryan.
Yeah, of course. Well then, we're going to say goodbye here tonight on SimSpeed TV. We want to give a big thanks to Racecraft Simulations and Dark Knight Racewear for their support of this series. Remember, drivers are in the running to win a pair of gloves at the final round of the season. So keep a lookout for the final round of this series, 8th round at the dirt track at Charlotte. My name's Reese Gardner. Ryan Jones in the commentary box with me and Jay Kennedy making everything happen behind the scenes. From all of us here at SimSpeed TV, it's goodbye for now, but we will see you for this championship's conclusion at Charlotte. Can anyone get a leg up on Joel Berkeley as he tries to seal his name on this trophy?
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going with the outside, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my god!
Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get involved.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?